much for joining us on the programme. For our next update, we stay in the Middle East, where the Syrian Network for Human Rights has said that bloodshed in Sweida has left at least 321 people dead. Armed tribes supported by Syria's Islamist-led government clashed with Druze fighters in the community's Sweida heartland a day after the army withdrew from the region. The Syrian minister said that the government has recovered 87 bodies, but he did not indicate if it was the entire toll from recent violence between Bedouin tribes and Druze minority in and around the city of the south of the country. Meanwhile, Germany has warned Syria's government it needed to protect citizens of all religions and ethnicities to have Berlin support after accusations Syrian forces committed abuses against the Druze minority. We're now joined by Mark Sutherland, who's a geopolitical commentator. He joins us live from London. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. I want to just get your initial reaction to this obviously ongoing violence in the south of Syria, and your thoughts if there's a real risk of this conflict escalating, not just something in Syria, but something much more regional here.
Thomas, good to be with you. I think earlier in our discussions, Israel is walking a very difficult line, but the other thing is that's very, very important to them is that, as I've said earlier, they have a number of, they have a Druze community within Israel, and those members of that Druze community also serve in the IDF. They also have family members in southern Syria. There is an ideology within Syria of jihadism that turns around and says that we object to anyone else that has a different belief system than ourselves. So there is, I think, the Druze community within Syria, or if you added that up with in Israel, was just over 1 million. And this is, in my humble opinion, an ethnic cleansing. Gilani, then we saw what happened with the Alawites. There's also been attack on Christians as well. So this is the situation that we are in, and the IDF, Israeli forces, sat and just thought there is no way that they could just sit back and let this attack happen on the Druze community. Hence why they have taken the action they have. They've also warned the other jihadist elements not to come near the southern border, and that is why the IDF are on the other side of the Golan Heights, and the Druze community, that is where they live. And as I've said previously, Thomas, the Golan Heights give Israel a protective outlook, because so they can actually see what's happening in Syria and then protect themselves from potentially attacks from the south.
Mark, I want to now go into the fact that the US has condemned this, the Israeli action, and has asked for de-escalation. Donald Trump, back in May, lifted sanctions on the country. We've seen and heard these terrible statistics, we've seen these terrible visuals coming out of the region. What hope does Syria have in becoming a democratic state like it says it is going to become?
Well, I believe it's deeply challenging, and without being too sarcastic and cynical, I don't see that happening at all. The other thing is, in my opinion, is the sanctions should not have been lifted on Syria. I can see that maybe they're trying to do that in good faith, but by lifting that, you could argue that it's actually empowered jihadist movement there to turn around and say, no, well, if the Americans have lifted those sanctions, then that means that we can go and behave in a particular way. Sanctions, when implied in the Iranian situation and elsewhere, have been extremely powerful in regard to containing certain behavior that we would not accept.
What about external players here, Mark, other than the United States? We also have the likes of Russia, who have huge interests in the region. How do you see them reacting and interacting with this crisis, especially if Israel and the southern Syria decide to break this ceasefire that just got signed a couple of days ago? What are your thoughts on that?
Russia has invested a lot in Syria, right? Of that there is no doubt in regard to financially, militarily, etc. Russia is also stretched in regard to its what's happening in regard to Ukraine. Yes, it's going to say what it does, understandably, because of its own interests in that region. But the Druze, the genocide, it is a genocide that's going on. The ideology within Syria, within those groups, turned around and said, well, we want to wipe out people that do not agree with us. So they are defending themselves. And Israel, they have asked for those forces within Syria to move back. At the end of the day, they are going to have to create, or they would like to create, a demilitarized zone in the southern part of Syria, where communities like the Druze, etc., could come and, like they were till recently, then doing the best of their ability to live peacefully. Within the West, as we're looking on, it's very interesting that people want a ceasefire. I understand that, but I also need to be calling out the Syrian forces and how they are actually behaving to the Druze and other minorities, Thomas. This is, in my opinion, what is lacking in this situation.
Yes, Mark Sutherland, thank you very much.